Classic video game rivalry, a topic that's as cringe as it gets, but we all love cringe. Don't even think about denying it. Dante and Virgil, X and Bile, Mario and Bowser, and countless others formed a repertoire of cringe-inducing and lady-repellent topics to bring up at a party. It's not like I dislike the concept, quite the contrary. It's just something that when done correctly can elevate an experience to cosmic levels. A sort of rivalry I've always appreciated was the sort of rivalry that depends on the friendship that elevates both characters involved in the rivalry. Sort of like Vegeta and Goku, but without the decades of genocidal backstory. Something more akin to X and Zero from Mega Man X. The first time you see Zero in the series, he kicks the first unbeatable boss's ass and tells you you're a little wuss, but in a kind-hearted manner, that you'll eventually stop being a wuss if you work. Just a little each day, at not being such a pansy ass all the time. That's why Ro left, man. She couldn't stand seeing you all day long being miserable, X. I think that this moment set the precedent for all future character action games, in which you would see a badass character that might or might not be a bad guy, just doing hot guy shit. After that, it's up to you to become as much of a beast as that dude originally was. It's something so cool that works so well in a video game. There's no better way to incentivize a player, in my opinion, than to just show or give them a little taste of what's possible with a little patience and practice. Of course, you won't get Zero's full moveset by the end of the game, but you'll be a force to be reckoned with that even Zero would have a hard time, if even possible, bringing down. If you're not the eldest sibling, then you know what it's like to have a friendly rivalry with your older sibling. You will always try to one-up each other, and even though you feel envy and anger when you see him getting your parents' appreciation for something good he did, you also feel really happy for him because you know he really outdid himself with whatever he did, and you know next time you'll do better than him. Fuck that guy, but I'm happy for him. That's the kind of rivalry I love, when you understand the motives or the rivalry is mainly based on the skills of the characters involved in said rivalry. I don't think many of you have watched Hajime no Ippo. It's a fucking awesome anime that has easily the best fights in anime. None of that power up or ki blast bullshit, which I also love. The fights here are brutal because they are based on real boxing matches. The creator of the manga is actually a boxer who ran in the amateur ring and has a gym that has trained multiple professional boxers. So he knows what the fuck he's writing and how he delivers all of it. Man, it's hype the anime. But anyway, there's this rivalry between Ippo, the protagonist, and another boxer from Japan, Sendo. They end up having the most hype battles in the entire manga and anime. It's just something that has to be experienced. But what makes it all greater is that all the characters are deeply developed. I won't go into the details of each character, but each fight in the series has a lot of backstories, and sometimes you don't even know who you want to root for during the battle, since some of the characters that end up fighting Ippo in the ring have some wholesome as fuck backstories. That's one important aspect to make a rivalry between two characters more interesting. Don't flesh the characters as to have an in-depth look into their lives, but make the reason for having to defeat their rival, even if the protagonist is the rival, make it be something that the audience can relate to, and then they will have a moment where their heartstrings will be pulled. They will have a moment of sympathy for the character's rival. That's a well-developed and written rivalry, like the one we're taking a look at in this video. That brings us to our main topic.
Don't interfere. This is between us. And it ends here. Okay. Let's dance!
Jetstream Sam and Raiden. There are full spoilers for the story and fucking awesome gameplay set pieces that happen during the game. If you haven't played it, I fully recommend you go and buy it now. It's in Steam for like $12. You're doing yourself a disservice if you like action games and haven't played this masterpiece. It's not particularly hard for these types of games, but very hard difficulty is fucking brutal. My piece of advice if you plan on playing it right now, the parry system works as follows. An enemy prepares an attack and telegraphs it with a red glow and shine. You move your stick quickly in the direction of the incoming attack and press the light attack button, which is X or square. This will parry the enemy attack. If done with perfect timing, you'll also do a counter attack that will likely stun the enemy. This is the basis of text in the game, and it's not explained well, not even in the tutorials. I'll wait here while you finish the game. Go on. If you've played it before, I know that you already reinstalled it. Bro, do you know what made me reinstall it? This fucking meme.
That's fucking football right there! None of that pansy-ass, dick-tugging smile for the camera bullshit! Men puke, men poop on the field! Men deliver their newborn baby on the sidelines! Fucking hardcore, dick-in-the-ass, butterball, foosball, fucking chuckin' game time shit! Take it to the showers! Dicks get shoved in places you don't even remember! We win together, we celebrate together! Football is back, baby!
I don't plan on doing a full analysis on this game like the one I did with Doom Eternal, but I do want to touch on some aspects of the game that make it one of the greatest action games ever released. So let's begin. Before we get into the video proper, I'm proud to announce my first official sponsorship by World Marshall's Repair Nanopastes. Repair Nanopastes were an integral part of Cyborgs during the late 2010s. As their name suggested, they acted as a means to repair any wounds cyborgs sustained in battle. They serve a similar role to combat rations of days past, but now you can recover your full life once you get hit by one of those fatal attacks instantly. Order yours now at worldmarshall.com and get 5 repair nanopastes each month. I got the blueberry ones this month, and I gotta say, I love the boost they give me every morning to keep on gaming for 9 days straight. I don't even need to shit anymore. Use promo code EPICCHUNGUSMOMENT to get free shipping on your first 3 boxes of Repair Nanopaste. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. God, what a stupid title. It's a character action game in the same vein as Bayonetta, that was designed as a spin-off of the absurdly popular Metal Gear Solid series. Rising, as we'll try to refer to it from now on, follows Raiden through some of the events that transpired after MGS4. We see Jack, or Raiden, fail miserably at his job multiple times. The same Raiden that was the main character in MGS2, and that appeared as a fucking cyborg ninja in MGS4. I'll have to go into a bit of detail about what the hell is up with Raiden, and believe me, I don't care about being correct about the deep lore of MGS at all. I like MGS, don't get me wrong. My favorite one is MGS2, because I like subversive stuff, and the entire game is a big fuck you to everyone who wanted just another MGS with prettier graphics. Kojima has always been opposed to the idea of sequels, since he finds it much more interesting to diversify his talents into multiple stories in which he can do some interesting shit. Since MGS is a series now, some things are to be expected of the game. I hate that man. So much. He's like the Zack Snyder or Quentin Tarantino of video games. But he's a pretty cool dude, and from what I understand, he withstood a lot of bullshit from higher-ups during his last years at Konami. But who knows? Raiden is a character that first appeared in MGS2. He was a bait and switch that Kojima devised to deliberately make people angry, and I love it. When directors, producers, and publishers all align to create a product that will sell like pancakes, subvert some expectations, annoy some people, and make others love the end product, that's when a cult classic is born. MGS2, the whole game, if I'm not mistaken, even the prologue chapter in the tanker, all take place inside a VR training regimen that Raiden is going through. The basic gist of Raiden as a character is that he's a deeply traumatized individual who served as a child soldier during the Liberian Civil War. He was then taken in by a private military company that had a research and development department that was developing literal cyborg ninjas to deploy into high-value missions. Raiden becomes top of his class during his VR training, and he decides to become a cyborg soldier freelancer, whose main goal is to protect the weak, the innocent, and to bring justice to a world that show him unfairness since he was born. I very much love Raiden as a character. I find him very interesting because he represents a lot of real life issues that are pretty relevant in today's world. He's a man whose home country disappeared during his childhood. In a war he helped fight and lost. He decided, even if he didn't know it back then, to join the military in search of vengeance, in search of a purpose. He's a man who lost his identity, his nation. He's a man who became a killing machine to survive. He has gone through some shit, and in the end, look at the things he achieves. He's on the level of the Doomslayer in terms of awesomeness and sheer power. In Rising, Raiden goes through even more shit during the events of the game. Being a game that takes place in the Metal Gear universe, there's of course a lot of political discourse, philosophy, and conspiracies discussed throughout the story. There's this thing that stood out to me this last time I played it. Do you know about the gas pipelines that go from Russia to the rest of Europe? Nord Stream 2. Well, it's a project that's been decades in the making, and even without it, Russia holds the majority of gas importation in the whole European continent. Well, in this game, one of the first levels takes place in a Russian gas refinery that gets destroyed to provoke worldwide tensions as an act of terrorism from part of a terrorist organization that wishes to bring forth a new form of government similar to libertarianism, the Desperados PMC. Those are your enemies in the game. But hey, I don't blame you for sympathizing with the bad guys in Rising. They're pretty convincing and, of course, their morals are skewed and their methods are inhumane, but what they're trying to achieve is actually pretty dope, but only in concept. We'll get more into it when we get to the best fucking last boss in any game. But in the meantime, let's talk about Rivalry.
Their legacy lingers on. The memes.
Making a great rivalry doesn't have a singular recipe for success, but making a great rivalry does require some special talent from part of the developers and writers. I think that games that use rivalries inside their narrative and gameplay are doing a great job at pushing the player to develop their skills to better themselves and see their character achieve victory and bragging rights against his rival. I think the most iconic rivalry out there is the one between Dante and Virgil from Devil May Cry, and there are a lot of things that make this rivalry work. First of all, they're brothers. You know that neither of them wants to fight the other. Neither of them is comfortable with the idea of killing their brother. But sometimes, things must be done, no matter what. Dante and Virgil are two opposing forces. Dante is just one chill dude who happens to be great at killing demons and enjoys the heck out of it. He thrives to bring justice to the world and to help and protect the weak humans from evil. While Virgil is a man who is mad with power. He wants to become the strongest being in the universe. He wants to bring the glory of his father's name and make the world bear witness to the greatness of his family's legacy. He strives for nothing more than selfish goals and will stop at nothing to achieve his dreams of becoming more powerful. When Dante and Virgil collide in their multiple clashes, they're some of the best moments in gaming, as memorable and cool as they get. DMC5 didn't pull any punches when delivering their final confrontation. It's incredibly epic in scale and emotional when experienced with context. But our main topic today, Metal Gear Rising, delves a little deeper into what makes a great rivalry. It comes from a game in a series which, granted, has like 20 games in its repertoire, but this game stands out as the only one of its kind. A character action game that's a spin-off of a stealth action game series that's in itself a spin-off of a classic stealth series made for 80s computers. And the story of this game is the last in the timeline, continuity-wise, so the developers, which is Platinum, had a lot of freedom as to what they could place in the game for its story. The rivalry that develops in this game is fucking awesome. It comes from the despair and literal Pyrrhic defeat that Raiden suffers against Sam at the end of the first level of the game. But it has a lot of personal philosophy at stake from both characters involved. Raiden doesn't know anything about Sam, and Sam probably knows the legends about Jack the Ripper, which was Raiden's previous nickname before he became a cyborg. known for ripping his enemies apart during combat and gaining some bloodlust during his child soldier years that he repressed through the years of intense training and probably psychiatric help. We earlier went through some things about Raiden's backstory, so now let's look at Sam. Samuel Rodriguez, or Jetstream Sam, is a lone swordsman and mercenary that comes from a line of samurai warriors. His father was a master of the sword art Sam uses, and they resided in Brazil. A disciple of his father went rogue and became an assassin. He eventually came for Sam's father and killed him. Sam then went on a journey to train and become a swordsman capable of taking on a whole gang of criminals on his own. He eventually returned to Brazil and took on the favela thugs and killed his father's murderer. After that, of course, he had to skip town and became a vagabond swordsman mercenary and traveled through the world hunting down those evil and corrupt enough to use force and power over the weak. Kind of like what Raiden does. The difference is, he doesn't fight for a country. He doesn't even fight for the weak. He fights for his ideals and to defeat those that he sees as evil. Sam goes on to hunt down the leaders of the Desperados PMC group and heads for the HQ of World Marshal, the father company of multiple PMCs, which are private military corporations, including Desperados. He meets the leader of the group, who will have his own section, and we won't get into any spoilers for that right now, but remember that Sam is someone who fights for his ideals, and he didn't have any specific cause to fight other than because, in his mind, he justified all the killing as That's the name of his theme song. And now, after meeting his new boss, he has something he doesn't fully agree on, but he can get behind, because he was shown firsthand what a world where only the strong get to rule. And he decided right then and there what side of the fence he'd rather be on when it all went down. This brings us to Raiden and Sam's first meeting, which happens during the final moments and the murder of the Prime Minister of an unnamed African country. Raiden was supposed to be the Prime Minister's bodyguard and security protection detail. He fails miserably at his job and proceeds to get his arm cut off by Sam during an intense fight in which Sam taunts him. The first clash of ideals between the two of them happens, while Raiden tries to explain his reasons for fighting.
My sword is a tool of justice.
Sam doesn't seem to care either way. He shows an opposing side of what Raiden is, but he refuses to accept. The chance for a great warrior within everyone to blossom just depends on how you view yourself and your weapon. Sam asks Raiden why he's holding back.
Self-taught, and not half bad. Still. Your technique lacks something.
They continue clashing swords atop a moving train inside a tunnel. Keep in mind, this is just the first level. We're still not introduced to the full extent of the mechanics of the game, and look at how awesome this fight turns out to be. I managed to last minutes with him at 0.1% health and in very hard difficulty. Yes, I'm proud of my PP, shut up. After enough taunting, Sam tells Raiden,
You deny your weapon its purpose. It yearns to bathe in the blood of your enemies, but you hold it back. No.
Raiden explains that his sword is a tool of justice, which leads to Sam unleashing some spiciness on Saucy Jack and cutting his fucking arm off and slashing one of his biological eyes. He lets Raiden live.
This is what happens when you bring a tool to a sword fight.
And escapes with the other big dude who impaled Raiden's employer, leaving Raiden bleeding out and with nothing but a dead prime minister, one less eye and arm to show for his great job as a security detail for politicians. Great job, Raiden. So Raiden gets repaired, gets new enhancements and a cool as fuck armor, and gets deployed into his next mission. The same terrorist private military corporation that killed the prime minister wants to start a war between Russia and Abkhazia. There's a Russian oil refinery located in Abkhazia, and one of the top leaders in Desperados, Mistral, accompanied by Blade Wolf, gets sent in to defend the installation, while an unknown terrorist plan is set in motion. Raiden arrives and battles Blade Wolf, which is a robot dog panther looking thing with an AI that's supposedly way above the human average IQ. He started getting notions of freedom and ideas of individualism and free thought. His backstory is simple. He was created as an experiment to see if bringing an advanced AI capable of human-like thought patterns could develop advancements in guerrilla warfare. And he's pretty capable, but kind of rebellious and difficult to work with. He apparently has an appreciation for human life, and would rather just complete the mission without being noticed and killing the least amount of people possible during his assignment. When he fights Raiden and he gets defeated, he finds a purpose to fight within himself, of defending humans and not letting the powerful become tyrants. He wants everyone to experience the freedom he fought so hard to achieve. And meeting Raiden and the Maverick Military Corporation grant Blade Wolf the opportunity to do right for the horrible actions he committed while under the control of the Desperados private military corporation. Of course, having a recent past with the Desperados means that Blade Wolf has some ties with Jetstream Sam. He finds Sam interesting because, despite Blade Wolf's great intellect, he cannot discern Sam's motivations to fight. Blade Wolf yearns to understand why someone would turn his back on his freedom to keep on fighting. He doesn't understand why a human would do the things Sam ended up doing because of ideals, since he doesn't find any ideals within Sam. Blade Wolf, I think, feels or understands the deeper longing and sadness that has brought Sam to this point. He doesn't want him to give up his freedom or his life, since Blade Wolf had to fight his masters to achieve his freedom. I believe he wants Sam to be free of this life of bloodshed. Mistral is one of the first slices of that edgy and cheesy, and even sometimes crass, pseudo-intellectualism that the Metal Gear series is famous for.
But I butchered those fuckers. My family's killers. That's when I realized I am a killer too. And a good one at that.
She doesn't get much development in the base game, but her character is pretty interesting, as she shares a very similar background to Raiden. She lost her parents during the Algerian Civil War, and once she grew up, she took vengeance upon those who killed her parents. She knew then that she was good at killing, and that she should use her talents. She became an assassin, but didn't have a cause to fight for. That is, until he met the best fucking final boss in any game.
Free to live as they see fit. They'll make America great again!
And to be fair, I too would be pretty enticed with his awesome speeches. I think that during Mistral's beginning speech, Raiden feels sympathy for her, but in the end he has to do what has to be done. Mistral shows interest in what would Raiden believe, and this moment shows that Raiden doesn't really have strong ideals that he believes in, other than protecting the weak. I mean, she's right, it's not pathetic or anything, but is that really a personal cause for fighting? Are you really taking the lives of other fellow humans just for the sake of the greater good? How is taking life contributing to the greater good? Isn't there some selfishness in the acts of violence Raiden commits? Yeah, I kinda love this game.
It seems we have less in common than I thought.
I'll take that as a compliment.
If you would kill for your ideals, then surely you are ready to die for them.
And you know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but these are genuine questions that can be asked during the story, as corny as it may be. As I said in my Doom Eternal review, games that don't have that much stake in their story could really benefit from making their games' stories as cartoonish as possible. Come on guys, we're playing video game, especially action and shooter game. Campiness is great, it creates hype. And if you want to get into touchy political or philosophical subjects, you can do it as tongue-in-cheekly as possible. I just can't get enough of this. This can only work in a video game or in an anime or something like that. But this game is one of those games that feels like you are the protagonist of an anime. The other one I can think of off the top of my head is Son of the Enders 2.
Get out of my way! Find another way! Secure.
Which, ironically, also has Kojima involved as writer and director, while he was more of a consultant and producer in Rising. Anyways, on with the game. As you can see, the game keeps questioning and developing Raiden as a character throughout the whole game. His ideals get questioned, his motivations and his reasons for fighting and taking lives. All of this is pretty important, and you'll see why later.
They will be free!
Damn! Crazy son of a bitch!
After that shitstorm, Raiden gets sent into Mexico to infiltrate a secret desperado facility where they are apparently conducting biological and cybernetic experiments.
¿Tienes ese güey? Un mariachi, ¿no? ¿Un cyborg? Ese sombrero. ¿Qué?
You find a Guyanese kid in the sewers who tells you that they apparently are experimenting on vagrant children and taking their organs. Raiden finds the secret facility and infiltrates it, finding several hundreds of excised brains in cybernetic pods that maintain their consciousness alive. Desperado wants to create an army of child cyborg soldiers who would remotely pilot UGs, or other cybernetic bodies, to perform tasks for this terrorist organization. The VR training that the Desperado PMC wants to use on these children's brains is pretty much the same training that Raiden went through in MGS2 that led to him choosing to become what he is now. He feels frightened that children will have to experience and live through his life and all the pain he has endured. That's some pretty grueling shit right there. And we also discovered this VIP who is involved with the experiments, and he's apparently funding the whole operation that's been going on through the game. He is Senator Stephen Armstrong, a recent electee that exceeded poll expectations with some disturbing speeches and projects in public politics of his own. Raiden finds the doctor in charge of the kid brain removal procedures, this fucking game, who has the kid we met earlier taken hostage. Raiden and the kid both agree that they must do what must be done, and Raiden proceeds to cut one of the kid's arm off and slice the doctor in half. After that whole shtick goes down, Raiden decides to go through the Desperados, only accompanied by Blade Wolf, who also seeks the same goal but for his own purposes. Raiden infiltrates the city of Denver, where all the cops are part of World Marshal, the parent business of the Desperados PMC. All the police in Denver, where World Marshal and by proxy the Desperados PMC's HQ is located, is part of World Marshal. Raiden resigned from the Maverick PMC to disassociate any of the bloodshed and liberal cop killing Raiden's about to enforce in the city, which would effectively mark the Maverick PMC as a terrorist organization. He starts to question his real motives for fighting, seemingly repressing something, and suddenly Raiden gets attacked and is forced on foot through the streets of Denver.
I will patrol ahead.
Military cyborg, you are not licensed to operate in this area. You're in violation of state and federal law.
Guess you'd better arrest me then.
18.3.104.7, threatening a peace officer. Deadly force is authorized.
He reaches World Marshal's HQ after some intense encounters with UGs, which I think stands for Unmanned Metal Gears, but right before reaching the HQ itself, Sam intercepts Raiden by using the AR ads that are scattered around the plaza. He starts another philosophical tangent, asking Raiden if he really believes everyone who he has killed has had a fair chance to end up having to cross swords with him.
You've killed up to now. Maybe they weren't kids, but they were people. You ever think about them? When you're chopping them into hamburger?
They're adults. They made their choice.
Sure they're adults. Sure they signed up for this. Right on the dotted line of their BMC contract. Usually they're no strangers to war. In fact, many times they already lost a limb or two. Many times they were out of work and starving on the street. So yes, they sign up for surgery to fight God knows where. How else would you provide for your family when your country's embroiled in civil war? Pain receptors shut down, pumped full of fear-inhibiting nanomachines and sent right into the blender? Your blender? But they made their choice, right? Open your eye and see, Raiden.
I've seen plenty.
Then listen. Those battlefield emotions that the nanos suppress. Listen to them.
What are you talking about?
Shh.
Kill him! Can we take him? What's wrong?
The way he killed all the others? Oh God. Please God, don't let me die.
Let's do this!
This isn't fair.
Little punk!
Listen closely now.
Die!
This life.
Now watch my wife and son die. This is all I have left. You ain't shit!
Goddamn, I need just my legs. I needed a job.
Stop! I didn't know what I was signing up for.
Is something the matter, Raiden?
I barely saved enough to bring Mama to the States.
Finish him off!
Whatever it takes to be free of this torture.
Stop it!
Are you injured?
I thought they had a choice. A fair choice. Not like you.
Raiden starts having a panic attack and has difficulty walking, but he ends up reaching the HQ and is met face to face with Sam, who keeps on taunting him, while three goons gang up on the poor, helpless Raiden. After some time,
name is Monsoon, of the winds of destruction.
gives his Shakespearean's first appearance and delivers another speech about the morality of combat and why it's important to have a purpose. He talks about memes, but not this stupid shit.
Something's in my ass.
You see, memes are originally an idea forged by Richard Dawkins. Yeah, that pathetic excuse of a man. He said that memes are similar to genes. While genes are a biological trait that gets passed on through generation, a meme is an idea or a concept that gets passed around through culture, family, or simply through overflow teachings that run deeply cemented in a country, region, or even subculture. For example, a stereotype is a form of meme that gets formed by generalizations observed by others about a particular group of people, and these memes can be altered to form justifications for the hatred that would get normalized and passed on through generations. Now, a meme can be simplified as a statement that can be understood with simple images or statements that are easily modified within a template. Monsoon makes Raiden deeply question his motives and brings up memories of what brought him to battle for so long in the first place. Raiden begins the edgiest and corniest scene in the whole game, activating this game's version of Devil Trigger, which awakens Jack the Ripper, Raiden's persona in the battlefields of Liberia.
You're right. About me, I mean. I knew something was off. After the Patriots, I thought I could walk off the battlefield and into a normal life. But here I am, surrounded by death, arguing philosophy with terrorists. I told myself this was about justice, about protecting the weak. But I was wrong.
Then you admit it.
I learned young that killing your enemies felt good. Really good. In America, my friends, my family, they helped me forget the devil inside. But who am I kidding? I was born to kill! The bit about my sword, that means of justice stuff, I guess I needed something to keep the Ripper in check when I was knee-deep in bodies.
You?
But you, all this, is a wake-up call to what I really believe. What I really am.
What are you saying?
I'm saying Jack is back. Doctor, turn off my pain inhibitors.
What? This is madness. You
do it!
All right.
Pain. This is why I fight. This is my normal. My nature.
You've lost your mind. I'll take this stance. No, Sam. Report back to the chief. He's mine. You're the boss. I misjudged you. You are like us after all.
Now you're just being nasty. That nickname you love so much. Want to know how I got it? Actually, why don't I give you a demonstration? I think it's time for Jack to let her rip.
And really, this boss fight, same as almost any other boss fight in the game, is beautiful, awesome, and has some hype as fuck drums serving as the most dynamic part of the music.
I'll put you on, weakling. Now what? Jack Ripper. You're dead. Dead on. Do as you please.
It's really something else. Jack finds a reason to keep on fighting. He doesn't want any more Jacks in the world. He didn't choose to become what he is, but he can stop people from creating and perpetuating the creation of beings like him. Kind of poetic for a fight that was as schlock as this.
I don't want this for anyone else.
All right, man.
Raiden enters World Marshal's HQ and begins looking for the remaining brains that are already being trained inside the facility. This level is pretty long and pretty uneventful, but some set pieces in this level are pretty cool. And this is the level when the developers went all out with the encounters, placing the toughest enemies in almost every encounter. After all, you're inside the belly of the beast. Raiden eventually reaches the server room after a gauntlet of difficult encounters where Sundowner, the Prime Minister's assassin and the commander of the Desperados PMC is located. He's one of the simplest of the bosses you encounter, philosophy-wise. There's this deep-rooted debate that's been going on for decades in the psychology field, and the question is simple but pretty complex to answer. Is humanity inherently evil? Or another way to posit it is, are children inherently evil? And while I don't believe humanity is inherently evil, it's inherently a biological being with physiological needs that can sometimes be used to justify the inherent evil in nature. And for example, animals preying on each other or diseases or something. Not only in humans, but as I said, in nature. Sundowner believes that child soldiers are the ultimate warfare tool to jolt up the war economy, which he believes in to a fanatical point.
Another thing you have in common. I chose this. They're kids, you son of a bitch. And kids are cruel. All people are by nature. They just lose touch with it as they get older. Start thinking they know right and wrong. That's immoral. War crime this, code of conduct that. Kids, you can mold, manipulate into performing all kinds of atrocities. And there's nothing like a good atrocity to keep a war going. That's why I'm shutting you down.
You see, Sundowner is a natural-born soldier and warmonger. Since he was a child, he excelled as a student, but his poor upbringing made him end up enlisting for military service once graduating from high school, and he became a brutal soldier and eventually mercenary.
Anyway, none of this will matter in 3 hours. Demand for PMCs is about to skyrocket, like the good old days after 9/11.
Raiden fights Sundowner and brings him down in an intense battle.
Like I said, kids are cool, Jack, and I'm very in touch with my inner child. I'm fucking invincible! Playtime's over, Jack. Time to die.
What's wrong? Answer me! Raiden! Raiden!
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Dude. Wait till you see the... And he then sets off with the brains in tow to a secret airbase which holds basically a spaceship for intercontinental travel, made by a character which I don't really remember from Metal Gear Solid 4. Her name is Sunny. While on the way there, the fight we've all been waiting for starts hyping up. I'm just going to let the game do most of the talking. Just keep in mind everything that Raiden has gone through up to this point.
I'm almost there. Having a little heart-to-heart?
I have analyzed his words and actions. I am unable to ascertain his motivation.
Fancy meeting you here. You knew I'd come. I suppose I should thank you for not killing everyone at the launch site. Well, not if you say it like that. For a hired killer, you're not very good at your job. The war is the big payoff. Right. Big raises all around once World Marshal gets all those contracts. I'm not talking about money, Jack. I'm talking ideals. Excuse me? Forget it. We've both heard enough speeches about higher causes by now. History will decide who's right. End of story. I don't care who thinks I'm right. And I've got cause enough for killing you. Huh? Oh, good. Why, that's very good. Yes, I like that.
Must you really fight?
Don't interfere. Let's dance!
Sam doesn't represent anything inherently evil. His backstory is simple, but really brings a perspective to his character that can be easily lost. He's a dude that decided to follow in his father's footsteps and become a respectable swordsman. Unfortunately, Sam was bested by someone that took him in as part of his crew, and he now has to fight at his side, as part of the Bushido Code of Honor entails that if someone defeats you in combat and lets you live, you become his samurai soldier.
Show me a good time, Jack! Not good enough!
I think Sam planned to eventually take on Armstrong again, but he knew he didn't have the skills to defeat him, and things just kept getting darker and darker. He had no means of escaping, and he saw in Raiden the opportunity for two things: a great fucking fight, and if Raiden won, then there was someone else who stood a chance against Armstrong. Raiden takes note of Sam's apparent absence of cybernetic enhancements, the only fully cybernetic part of his body being the arm that Armstrong sliced off. Most of his prowess comes from his biological self. He was on the level of Raiden, even without a weapon, he gave a great fight, and he was almost all human. I just think that how this rivalry developed and how it all turned out, in the end, is actually pretty deep, once you get into the grit of it. Both characters are some of the best mercenaries in the world. They're both incredible swordsmen and they both have kind of the same goal. But honor and the search for perfection as a warrior took them both on this path. Neither Raiden nor Sam was going to concede the other. They knew they had to end it. And even though Sam gets bested in the end, things will redeem him in the end. You'll see.
Raiden, we have less than 1 hour. Hurry!
Roger that.
Raiden arrives at Pakistan, where Operation Tecumseh is taking place, the apparent next big terrorist attack from the Desperados PMC to incite war in Africa. The President of the United States is going to appear in Pakistan in the next few hours, and that's where Chet's apparently going down. There's this military hangar that belongs to World Marshal and supposedly had US military soldiers on base. So, to increase world tensions, World Marshal plans to use this base as their alibi in blaming Pakistan, who has contracts with Desperado, as a terrorist nation with plans to kill the President of the United States. Or so it seems. Raiden plans to destroy the aerial antenna array on the base to make the US military notice that something's wrong on Pakistani soil. Raiden finds Wolf fucked up on the floor and a giant Metal Gear rises from the ground, controlled by the best fucking last boss in any game. CEO of World Marshal, leader and basically the founder of the Desperados PMC, representing the state of Colorado, Senator Stephen Armstrong.
Well, if it isn't Saucy Jack.
A Texas-born nationalist, liberalist, and recent electee and apparent shoo-in for the 2020 elections. Yeah, this game actually takes place in 2018, can you believe that? Okay, so our current generation of war is technically the 5th generation of war, which basically means psychological, information, and cyber warfare. This game deals with this touchy subject, which I don't want to get too deep into it. These are pretty serious topics, but information and fact-checking is a slippery slope. In this day and age, it's difficult for the common citizen to gather enough information to assess the current global geopolitics that makes the reasons for wars that have been going on for decades in the Middle East and other wars that ended recently and have apparently sprung up again in recent world events. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Think about it for a while. Are we really certain what the enemy in the current global situation is? The media and the flow of information have been easily manipulated, and people have started taking sides and political discussion runs rampant. People are going crazy about every detail that gets leaked out of the front lines. And that's exactly what Armstrong took advantage of, using the recent slaughter of Desperado soldiers on the hangar public on the internet and making it look like terrorist attacks are happening on the base and people are calling for the US military to take military actions against Pakistan, since US soldiers have apparently been slaughtered in that base. I'm just going to let Mr. Senator Armstrong deliver his speech in its entirety. I need you to understand how fucking awesome this is. especially with a comparison I intend to make between Sam's rivalry and Armstrong's rivalry.
Impressive little toy you've got there. But your plan ends here.
Idiot! You're not ending our plan. You're expanding it. Check the internet lately.
Raiden, Air Force One is turning back to the States.
What? How'd they know?
Someone posted photos of what's happening on the base. The whole world is up in arms.
Show me. How did they? The story leaked early. Then Marshall's plan is ruined.
The hell it is. Look what they're saying. The story just went live, and already they're calling for blood.
But the president was saved.
And yet American blood was spilled.
By Americans. Besides, a few dozen soldiers is tragic, but nothing to start a major war over.
That's just the spark, son. The excuse we've been waiting for. America's wanted this war for years. The Patriots, they knew war was good for the economy. 4 years later, their legacy lingers on.
The memes.
They left us their great isms. Nationalism, unilateralism, materialism. Welcome maxims for those with no faith, without guiding principles of their own. Give yourself up to the whole. No need to better yourself. You're American. You're number one. Then the only value left is dollar value. The economy. So we'll do whatever it takes to keep it humming along. Even war. Especially war.
Bullshit!
The Patriots planted the seed. We don't need them around to filter and foster their memes any longer. We're spreading them just fine ourselves. Every American man, woman, and child. We're all sons of the Patriots now! We just need something to jumpstart the economy out of this funk. This recession it's been stuck in since the fall of SOP.
And the military costs? Wasting billions is going to help the economy?
DMCs, arms manufacturers, job creators, Jack. All those workers spending money, paying taxes. Trust me, a little war can work wonders.
So grease the gears with some innocent blood, is that it?
Oh, relax, Jack. It's a war on terror. We're not out to kill civilians. Extremists, lawless gangs, madmen. Of course, that would have to include you. Wouldn't want any eyewitness reports complicating the message.
You fight Metal Gear Excelsis, piloted by fucking Armstrong. I love how every boss fight ends in these games, even the multi-phase ones. This leads to another cutscene with this Giga Chad.
Slippery little bastard. I don't have time for this.
Oh, you've gotta be kidding me.
He goes full Saiyan and continues his speech in the coolest manner possible, beating the shit out of Raiden.
Let's go!
The hell are you thinking?
Played college ball, you know.
That's a cushy Ivy League school.
Try University of Texas. Could have gone pro if I hadn't joined the Navy. I'm not one of those beltway pansies. I could break the president in two with my bare hands. Don't fuck with this, Senator.
What the hell are you?
Why don't you stick around and find out?
What?
Nice night.
Typical politician. Big promises, but all talk.
What?
Jumpstart the economy. What a load of bullshit! All you care about is lining your own pockets. That and your approval ratings. You've got no principles. Just like all the rest. If America's gone to shit, you're just another maggot crawling in the pile.
All right, the truth then. You're right about one thing. I do need capital and votes. Wanna know why? I have a dream.
What?
That one day, every person in this nation will control their own destiny. A land of the truly free, damn it. A nation of action, not words, ruled by strength, not committee. Where the law changes to suit the individual, not the other way around. Where power and justice are back where they belong. In the hands of the people! Where every man is free to think, to act for himself! Fuck all these lunatic lawyers! Chicken shit bureaucrats! Fuck this 24/7 internet spew of trivia and celebrity bullshit! Fuck American pride! Fuck the media! Fuck all of it! America's diseased, rotten to the core. There's no saving it. We need to pull it out by the roots. Wipe the slate clean. Burn it down! And from the ashes, a new America will be born! Evolve, but unchained! The weak will be purged, and the strongest will thrive, free to live as they see fit. They'll make America great again!
What the hell are you talking about?
You still don't get it. I'm using war as a business to get elected! So I can end war as a business. In my new America, people will die and kill for what they believe. Not for money, not for oil, not for what they're told is right. Every man will be free to fight his own wars! So, what do you think?
How the hell did you get elected?
Well, I don't write my own speeches. You should try fighting for what you believe in sometime, Jack. Not for a company or a nation or for anyone else.
Maybe I was wrong about you.
Am I finally getting through? I'll rid this world of pointless wars, Jack.
I was wrong. You're not greedy. You're batshit insane!
Making the mother of all omelets here, Jack. Can't fret over every egg.
Not when you're purging the weak, right? What do you know about the weak? You weren't born poor. You've never been hungry. You don't know what it's like to fight and steal and kill just to survive.
But you did survive! Through sheer force of will, following your own set of rules. With your own two hands, you took back your life.
And now, I'll take yours.
He does the Cell thing and lets Raiden use him as a punching bag, which does at most 2% damage to the guy.
Why won't you die?
Nanomachine, son!
He constantly sends Raiden flying with each punch, all the while still making arguments for his political views and desires for his utopic libertarian world. But yeah, that utopic sense of patriotism, where every man has absolute freedom, is really what we call anarchy or anarcho-capitalism. And it just wouldn't work. It would basically mean that you would have to protect with military force yourself and your family from everybody else in the country. And if some psycho gathers up a group of people to take over another person's land or property, not even the government would be able to step in. Yeah, power brings domination over adversaries, but civilization brings equal opportunities to everyone, not just to the people who have access to military equipment. I agree with the senator on his sentiment, but it's founded on crazy ideals of power and control that will be exerted over the general populace by martial law. Martial law and civilian surveillance by military corporations would become the norm across the world were this to happen. And well, we're not really far off from that reality, but that's a whole other topic.
Alright.
Raiden gets his ass beat again, and Blade Wolf appears from the rubble with Sam's sword. Blade Wolf replays the last words Sam said to him.
2 years I've been working towards this. And on the last day, Blondie has me downing the whole thing. We'll leave it up to fate then, shall we, Wolfie? A duel to the death. May the best man win.
Sam.
And we can see how honor was always in Sam's mind, and Blade Wolf uses his freedom to justify helping Raiden.
But if he beeps me, if I die here, the lock on my blade will disable after a couple hours. What happens after that is up to you, Wolfie.
Ha! Even dead, that guy's a pain in my ass. So, you think that little sword can save your master? Well, go ahead then. But make no mistake, Fido. When I'm finished with him, you're next.
I was not designed to fear termination.
Huh?
However, Directive 01 is to ensure all data acquired is preserved and passed along. To expire here would violate that directive.
That's a good boy.
However, Raiden came to my aid. I have learned from him. When Samuel fell, data analysis was inconclusive. But that has changed. I have established new parameters now. Created my own directives.
Gets kicked in the ass by the senator.
Little fuck.
Which leads to the final fight of the game.
I said my sword was a tool of justice. Not used in anger. Not used for vengeance. But now I'm not so sure. And besides, this isn't my sword. Come on! Okay. Let's dance. your dream dies with you.
Maybe not. You've guaranteed the status quo will go on. For a while longer, at least. War will continue as an institution. As an industry. Men will fight for reasons they don't understand. Causes they don't believe in. But at least I'll leave a worthy successor. You carve your own path. Use whatever methods you see fit. You don't let legal bullshit get in the way. And if it costs a few lives, so be it. Deep inside, we're kindred spirits. You and I.
Beautiful. This game is a thing of beauty. Pure, creamy schlock. But notice the difference between Sam's and the Senator's personalities, and how this reflects not only in the multiple encounters with each of them, but in the way that the Senator is a man driven by ideals and power, mostly power, and bringing his vision of a perfect world for the war economy, which would in turn give him more power. Sam, on the other hand, is a man whose ideals led him to this road of revenge and bloodshed. All he knew in his life was to fight and kill those who represented evil and sat under ivory towers while wars raged on all over the world, because of ambitions of men and women he perceived as lesser. His tragedy is that the same honor that brought him on this path in the first place is what led him to become an unwilling pawn in Armstrong's plans for world domination. Sam got what he wanted in the end, the best fight of his life. And even though Raiden beat him in the end, he knew that he was the one who could take on Armstrong and finally bring his insane plans to a stop. The best man won. And I'm sure Raiden feels deeply about what happened between him and Sam. He hated Sam because he took his arm and his hand. But this was really the fuel that made him someone capable of taking the demigod that Armstrong was down. Okay, so rivalries, huh? This game is a masterclass on how to use a villain as a rival, and the story intertwines with the events that play out in the gameplay beautifully. You get fucked up at the beginning of the game, and then you have to become stronger and better at the game, which gets you hyped up for the battle to come against your rival. You get constantly teased with foreshadowing of your rival. The DLC even explains the tribal stickers on the bike you arrive in for the battle with Sam. It's Sam's bike, for fuck's sake. He doesn't even bat an eye that this fucker, who ends up killing him, stole his bike. He just wants to fight this dude. Everything else is secondary. He actually waited a long time for him to become the best he could before fighting him head on. He's technically the second to last boss, and in higher difficulties represents the iron wall between you and the final level of the game. Sam represents something beyond ideals and ambitions. He's a man that got everything he wanted out of revenge, but this didn't end with a happy ending.
And I've got cause enough for killing you. Huh? Oh, good. Why, that's very good. Yes, I like that.
Armstrong is a man who plans for the future, where he and his military are undisputed lords of the earth. His ideals and ambitions are fuel for his greed and lust for power.
Cherry blossoms.
Yeah.
I take it you're not a fan?
No. They make me sick. I knew Johnson's team was working on some fancy-pants new reception area. But Jesus. When I get my hands on that candy ass, he'll be lucky if he can even carry his box of shit out of the building.
Two forces coalesce together and form a dichotomy of philosophies and trains of thought on what power represents for humans, and they all converge on one edge. And what a fucking edge it turned out to be. Lots of games have underdeveloped rivalries, or rivalries that end up being reused or rehashed throughout the whole series. This game stands on its own as a unique game in the character action genre. It doesn't have sequels and didn't really sequel bait other than leaving it open for Raiden to go on similar adventures. And most of, if not all of the main villains of the game are killed off, especially Sam and Armstrong, which are the game's main appeal for me. This gave the developers, as I stated near the beginning of the video, a shit ton of leeway on how they handled the characters, story, and gameplay. This game was saved from the ashes of the Konami team that was developing a Kinect title. I'm very grateful that it turned out the way it did at the end. It's one of my favorite games ever. I don't know where I'd put it, but it definitely belongs in the A+ tier. The controls are great, the action is fast, brutal, and the mechanics are deep enough for you to do some crazy shit. I really hope to see this kind of experiment done in the future. Platinum has some awesome character games that have delivered the goods, and I would love to see them continue doing what they do best. I won't even mention the guy because I'm incredibly not in his banned list, but he's the man. I'm sure if given the opportunity to do a sequel or a similar game in the MGS universe, he would surely take it with pride.